All of the parties have policies they claim will solve the climate crisis, or at least do something about it. We will be exploring those in a minute. First, Joe Kent has been taking a look at how important an issue it is to people across the south.
Whether it's investing in renewable energy,
the climate is breaking down. We need to start using renewable energy and not more fossil fuels.
Getting tough on air pollution,
we're going to have to be carbon neutral by 2030 if we're going to stand any chance.
Or cutting down on single-use plastics.
You wander around supermarkets just going plastic, plastic, plastic.
The environment and climate change have never been higher on the electorate's agenda. 5 of the region's councils have declared a climate emergency, indicating they're open to finding ways to reduce carbon emissions. But for many, it's not happening. Young people, inspired by activist Greta Thunberg, recently skipped school to take part in demonstrations around the region.
I know there are targets and all that kind of thing, but it just feels like people brush it aside and continue to ignore them or do the bare minimum.
The direct action group Extinction Rebellion has been gathering support. It recently stopped traffic in Oxford in protest at the planned expressway road between Oxford and Cambridge. And in Southampton, one of the country's highest polluting cities, there was a demonstration against the cruise ship industry.
We only have one planet. We're basically failing us at the moment, sitting on the fence of a huge ecological collapse.
Even farmers whose industry faces restrictions under the government's latest clean air strategy are joining the fight. In the Hampshire village of Broughton, a biodiesel-powered pink tractor is highlighting the cause.
Petitions, pressuring MPs. We tried all this stuff and it's just not working well enough. So resorting to non-violent direct action is the logical next step.
And while the Extinction Rebellion tactics of civil disobedience have undoubtedly caused disruption and attracted criticism, one of its founders was welcomed to speak at a Hampshire school.
Extinction Rebellion!
I'm not advocating arrest. It's had a huge impact on my life. But I'm certainly advocating for children to take this issue seriously and demand change, because I think that's the only way, unfortunately, that we're gonna make that happen.
Along with Southampton, Portsmouth's among the cities ordered by the government to introduce a clean air zone because of its failure to meet emissions targets. A proposal to charge the highest polluting commercial vehicles is being considered. Oxford plans to introduce a zero emissions zone from next year, while Reading's also working on a scheme. During half-term, children in Dorset got to experience air pollution firsthand when an art installation came to Brownsea Island, simulating the environment of New Delhi.
When we came into this one, I was like, it smells bad and it can hurt people, and so we should start cleaning up the air.
Tackling plastics is another thing people care about. Woodstock in Oxfordshire is trying to phase them out.
We are only a drop in the ocean, absolutely. But every drop in the ocean adds up to an ocean.
What's needed is the government to put forward some kind of plastic tax, particularly on the problem plastic. And if a tax was put on those, it would steer the market down the right course of action.
And what's the right course of action where generating energy is concerned?
No drill, Horse Hill! No.
Opponents of plans to expand oil drilling at Horse Hill in the Surrey Weald certainly believe it's more of this and less of this.
If we follow government policy on reducing carbon emissions and then we also start extracting further fossil fuels from the ground, it's a complete contradiction in the two policies.
Whoever forms the next government will have to deliver when it comes to climate change, or they'll certainly be facing more of this.
So, obviously, you'd like to be getting people to vote for you on the Green Party, but Lib Dems of yours, or you're encouraging them?
I think only the Green Party begins to look at the sea change that we have to make in the way that we live our lives. 100 billion a year is what we're talking about investing to try and address the problems that climate change have caused. And even then, after 10 years, we will only have got 3/4 of the way towards net zero. It is massive. What we have to do is massive. And quite honestly, everything we've been doing so far is fiddling about at the edges.
Lewis North.
I agree. I mean, Lib Dems want to see 85% of our electricity being renewable by 2030. So that's cheaper bills, greener energy for the planet.
Extinction Rebellion say there's just not quick enough. 2025.
Well, to be fair, you have to approach this issue through different groups. You've got the Extinction Rebellion, which is an important movement we support, but you've also got to leverage private investment into renewable energy like offshore wind and tidal lagoons. You can't just do this by one form or the other. It's got to be a country coming together and sorting this out.
If we have electric cars, Donna Jones, it's going to be pretty difficult, isn't it, to have that infrastructure built across the country and you know, for it all just to work. Is that one of the reasons why you think the date should be further in the future?
I think it's about being realistic. We do need to hit our net zero target. 2050 is the realistic target that's been set, but I think all of us would agree that we'd like that to be much sooner. You know, the Conservative government is the most pro-green, environmentally friendly government this country.
The Green Investment Bank in 2015, which was in there with the Lib Dems.
What happened to the Green Investment
Bank?
Bank?
This country has ever had.
What happened to the Green Investment Bank?
We are also committing that all cars will be within 30 miles of an electric charging point within 3 or 4 years, so that we really want to roll that out as quickly as possible. And the Prime Minister was at a UN conference in New York just 7 or 8 weeks ago, where he actually committed to doubling from £500 million to £1 billion the spend on tackling climate change, particularly, very importantly, in developing countries around the world, which is very important.
The Green Investment Bank to one side, the British government is also trying to get things happening in other parts of the world, and surely that's important. We can't do all of this ourselves, Rachel Eden.
Can I just say that actually what we've found over the last few years is it's been very difficult. I'm a director on a voluntary basis of a community energy society, and we've found that government policy has actively worked against us expanding our renewable energy generation in Reading, and that's really problematic. So it's nice to talk big words. Suddenly it's a big political issue and the Conservatives are changing their tune. But actually what we need is real action. And I also think we need to see us leading the world. We're not currently leading the world in terms of that international negotiation. And I think we should...
large economy in the world to commit to net zero.
Sorry,
and
I let you
thing
speak.
is as well is that the brilliant thing is as well is that at the end of May, and I'm not here to attack other parties, I think the Labour Party and actually some of the things the Lib Dems are coming up with are great as well. I think we need to work together. I think people don't want us sat here taking chunks out of each other. They want us to act like grown-ups. And for me, the fact that we had over 300 hours at the end of May, 2 weeks, this country had its entire energy supply across the whole country with not one piece of coal burnt, and all of that energy supply came from renewable creation, which is amazing.
Far too late.
Right, Rachel Eden, what is it that you in government, and realistically you're the alternative to the Conservatives here, that would we notice that difference straight away?
Absolutely. Well, I think what we'd notice straight away is that the environment for investment, for our small businesses, our cooperatives who want to generate renewables will become much more positive. We'll also see, I'm glad you think that we would do better.
Let's let Rachel answer this
I
one.
also think that we're seeing, when the Labour government comes in, we'll see that we have a really different approach to our international negotiations. We'll be leading the world. We'll be working with our European neighbours. We'll be working with those countries that want to take real action on climate change.
Do you think people trust Jeremy Corbyn to do that more than Boris Johnson?
I think if you look at their environmental credentials, it's pretty clear who is the stronger and more clear about the urgency of this matter. And there's real opportunities here.
You said yes. Lewis North, would you rather work with Jeremy Corbyn as a Liberal Democrat MP or with Boris Johnson?
We're not ruling out Labour, but Jeremy Corbyn were quite clear. Is a Brexiteer. He's not even come out for Remain. We've had all this time.
Right, but surely you said that climate change is important. Yes. Why do you want to bring it back to Brexit?
Yes. I want to talk about climate change, and we had massive flooding in this country this week, and that just proves that sea levels are rising, coastal erosion. We've got to have a proper plan. That's why Lib Dems are putting £5 billion, if they were in government, into a flood adaptation plan, so communities all have the same standard towards flooding. Okay, it's good having targets, but you've got to have the infrastructure in place to make sure people are safe and their businesses can operate.
Actions, not words.
And at the moment we've got competition with how many trees each party can plant. I mean, does it feel like we're skirting around the edges?
To be honest, what I am more concerned about, even more concerned about than the climate emergency, is the collapse of the natural world, because that completely threatens the future of us in the very near future. In the very near future, I do need to tell you a story that happened in May.
You'll have to make it a quick
I was
one. We're coming
invited
to the
to
end of the
look at
programme.
somebody's hay meadow. We
Yes.
admired the beautiful, beautiful flowers, and there was not a single insect there. Not one insect. We couldn't find one
That's what
insect.
pollinates our foods
Yeah,
at the end of the day.
it means that we will have no fruit. We will have no vegetables. We will be reliant on grains.
Our soil
and
quality
grain
will go down.
harvest.
But we also need to be optimistic. I mean, we have so much division in our
we need to
country.
put 100 billion a year into restoring
Rachel,
nature and restoring the climate.
Do you know what? I'm actually more excited and more positive about things over the last 12 months because I've seen particularly our young people in Reading and West Berkshire have really pushed forward on this. And when we see local councils taking action, that sees it coming up from the grassroots. And then what we need is a change of government who will take this properly seriously, real action, and then we'll get...
Is an optimistic approach about a change of government, Donna Jones?
There's been so much fantastic stuff that's come. I think children's voice has been heard more in the last 12 months than ever before. I really welcome all of the support towards the climate change, raising the agenda.
But a Conservative vote is a vote for more of the same, isn't it?
Yes. No, I think we have the most environmentally supportive government we've ever had in this country. And I think if you look back on the actions, well, no, it is. It's a fact. We have the most environmentally supportive.
Energy?
Okay.
In the last 4 years.
Well, we have. You know, I think the Conservatives have got a great record. We are going to be investing in tidal.
Where's the money?
But maybe not fast enough.
We need to be working together. This is exactly.
Thank you all, four of you, for your contributions this week. The voters have a choice, and they've an idea of some of the answers. That's all from our guests.